I posted a video on this ISO cab about a year ago, and I had so many questions on that video that I could have probably done a better job explaining some of it, so I want to answer some of those questions. Quietest ISO cab on planet Earth? Let's find out. So in this cabinet, I have a Beyerdynamic M201, kind of just like a bigger, better sounding 57. It's what a 57 probably should have been, in my opinion. I'm not really the biggest fan of a 57, blasphemous, I know, but these sound really, really good, and they've got a lot of detail and a lot of clarity. They're wonderful on guitar amps. Also, there's a Royer R121 in there, kind of the gold standard for ribbon mics for electric guitar amps. Today I'm going to be running through the Friedman Small Box 50, and I'm running a Iconic Guitars Ice Cream overdrive pedal with my Iconic guitar, my #1 Evolution. And so I will put links in the description down below for everything here, and you can go check it out if you want, or pick one up if you want. Also, I'll put the link in the description to the first video I made on this ISO cab. In that video, I went over in much greater detail kind of the design and my thought process and the concepts behind soundproofing. I went pretty hard in the paint on that stuff in the other video, so go check that out if you want a more detailed look at the actual construction of this video. But on that other video that was posted about a year ago, there are hundreds of comments of people being like, I wish you could have shown us how much quieter it was with the lids on than with the lids off. And I didn't do that at the time because I just didn't think it would turn out really well, but so many people have asked. I'm still getting comments every day now. I got a comment this morning asking for that very test, so I figured screw it, let's give it a shot. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set the volume of this microphone. It's about 3 foot away from the cabinet, about 3 foot away from myself. I'm going to set that at the appropriate level for this room sound right here with the lid on and me sitting in front of it playing guitar. Then I'm going to take the first lid off and leave that microphone at the same volume, and then I'm going to take the second lid off and leave that microphone at the same volume. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set that microphone to be the appropriate volume for the lids not being on the cabinet whatsoever, and then we're going to put the first lid back on and then the second lid back on while leaving the microphone at that new level. And so what I think is going to happen here is that microphone is going to be completely blown out and completely distorted once these lids come off, and then I'll readjust this volume for the appropriate room sound. And I think what will happen is by the time I get these lids back on, you'll basically be able to hear nothing. I have no idea how this is going to work out, but we're going to give it a shot. All right, here we go. First lid is off. Let's see what that sounds like. All right, let's take the second lid off. Oh, this is gonna be so loud. This is actually gonna hurt. By the way, I'm using a Friedman Small Box 50. It's turned all the way up. Oh, god damn. Okay, now I'm gonna readjust the volume of this microphone for this wide open cabinet sound, and we'll see what happens there. Okay, so I've reset the volume of this microphone to be the appropriate level for this ridiculousness. It actually hurts sitting here. I should have earplugs in. So here we go, let's do the same thing in reverse. Cabinet wide open, first lid back on, then the top lid back on. Jesus. I'm actually gonna be able to stand this now. Room mic is still set at the same volume for the cabinet wide open. I'm really curious to see how quiet this comes through right here with both lids back on the cabinet. So that is the volume difference with the lids off versus with the lids on. Hopefully that was helpful to some of you that are thinking about building a cabinet similar to this. So the next question that I get a bunch is, why is there two cabinets? Why is there a second cabinet suspended inside of an outer cabinet? Now, I did go over this in the other video, but I may not have done the best job explaining it. So if you walk up to any guitar cabinet, any of them, regardless of what style it is, and it's cranked all the way up, and you put your hand on that cabinet, you're gonna feel it vibrating like crazy. Now, one of the things that you do when you soundproof something is you have to isolate the transmission of vibration. And the better job you do at this, the more soundproof something is. And so that was the principle behind suspending this inner cab inside the outer cab. The idea was, hopefully that inner cab is resonating really hard. And if you put your hand on it, it's pretty crazy. But a lot of that vibration gets killed because it doesn't travel through those rubber straps. And then whatever vibration comes off the outside of that inner cab then will get stopped by the outer cab that is a multi-layer outer cab. Just so this is a standalone video, this outside cab is 3/4 inch plywood with a layer of green glue, and then 5/8 drywall, and then another layer of green glue, and then another layer of 3/4 inch plywood, and then there's insulation set inside of it, and the inner cab itself is all 5/8 birch, which is a very common material to make guitar cabinets out of. So the next question that I get asked a lot is, could it have been smaller? This is a pretty large cabinet, and it probably weighs about 500 pounds. Now, whenever I've used other ISO cabs on the market, one of the big problems, in my opinion, with them is that the internal volume of the cabinet itself is kind of too small. It doesn't let the speaker breathe enough. There's not enough air inside for it to like accurately push the air around, and that's kind of why, in my opinion, a lot of ISO cabs on the market are very dull sounding, like they're muffled, like there's a blanket over them or something, or sometimes they're thin sounding actually. Sometimes they're both, sometimes they're thin and muffled sounding. But so my thought process was, how big can I actually make the cabinet, the internal cabinet, while still having room to suspend it on straps and still have room for this outside cabinet to fit through an average doorway of an apartment or a bedroom. And so the outside dimensions, getting through that door, was my limiting factor. It could not be too big to fit through a regular door. And so then from there, I made the inner cabinet as big as I could possibly make it while still making that outside dimension work. Now, I did an entire piece of music in the other video on this cabinet, so go check that out, a whole produced out piece of music. But if you want to hear the internal cabinet, what it actually sounds like with the microphones on the inside, I'll play that clip right now. So the other question I get asked a lot is, how is it finished? What is this actually, this black finish? So this is actually Tolex. It's basically the exact same Tolex that Fender uses on all their amps, and it's done in the same style that Fender wraps their amps as well. I actually hired someone to do this because I wasn't confident that I could do it myself the first try. My big thing with this is I wanted this to look like it was something that I bought. I didn't want it to look like a high school science project. And so when I had professional clients come in the studio, they had to just assume it was a high-end pro piece of gear. Now, I've been asked over and over if I'm gonna patent this, or if I'm gonna sell it or sell the designs to it, if I'm gonna have someone manufacture it. And here's just the honest truth of it. I've got way too much going on to mess with it. I've got too much production work, a full YouTube channel now to keep up with. I've got a family. I don't think it would be beneficial for me to try to figure out a way to manufacture these, because I don't think that there would be enough of them sold to warrant all the trouble it would go through. And also, since it weighs about 500 pounds, the shipping cost on it would just be astronomical. And so I think in order for me to manufacture these in a way that I could actually sell them to people and make any money off of, these would have to be somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000. And I would rather just put the information out there for you all between this video and the other video, the first video that I did on this cabinet. If you want to steal the design, go for it. Best of luck. I want you to try to make this. I think it's an incredible design. It has really worked out far, far better than I ever thought it could. And it really has saved me. For those of you that follow the channel, you know that when I first moved here to Nashville years ago, I was in an apartment bedroom. I'll throw a picture up right now. This was my studio for the first like 5 years I lived here in Nashville. And I knew moving here I would end up in an apartment. And I knew that I had to keep recording guitars. I play on records myself. When I have clients in, I wanted them to be able to play on records as well, using their own rig, which is why I didn't go with a Kemper or an Axe Effects. I wanted clients to be able to use their own rig. And so an ISO cab seemed to make the most sense for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the links in the description for everything we talked about. And in the description of the other video, there are links to all the parts that I used to build this. I hope it helped you. I hope you got some good ideas. I hope you got something from this, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.